the two greatest contribution of India to the world. In fact, three, but I'll be highlighting here two. One is the yoga, one is Sanskrit, and the third one is Ayurveda. These three are the greatest contribution of India towards the progressive evolution of the humanity. Here we'll be dealing with the yoga and Sanskritam, the language. And it is throughout the scriptures we will find how this system of yoga has developed. The system of yoga that is there in the Vedas, the system of yoga that is there in the Upanishads, the system of yoga that is there in the Gita, and the whole synthesis of that. This is one aspect why the sessions are chosen like this. And the other aspect is how that system is given expression to using a language which itself is yoga. The language using Sanskritam or learning Sanskritam itself is a yoga, which we will be doing in the next session. Sanskrit, that is why I have kept the title as Sanskrit as a language of yoga. Not a very ordinary language, but a very deep language or language of yoga. So that discussion we will do later. So this session we will contemplate on the yoga. By yoga, usually people understand it is the yoga asanas what Patanjali has given. But what Patanjali has given is a one aspect of the yoga. Yogasanas are a very physical aspect, one aspect, not the totality of the yoga. Yoga is a vast term. In its deeper sense, yoga, education and life and sadhana all are having the equal importance. The values are same connotations at a deeper level. So that is why Sri Aurobindo's the most popular tagline, all life is yoga. Education, life, yoga, sadhana. Now a few years before, when we talked about yoga, it was meant that, okay, it has nothing to do with our ordinary life. Yoga means there has to be a separate place, a separate setup. All those who practiced certain kind of yoga were looked, as some mystics or some mysterious beings, or they were treated separately. But that was not the system of yoga which is talked in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the Gita. So that is why Sri Aurobindo said all life is yoga. Now this yoga, it has again twofold aspects. Whether someone is doing the yoga or not, consciously, there is a yoga of the Prakriti which is happening eternally. Whether one does anything or not, one grows. Evolution happens. Evolution means there is a change. This change is happening. change in the consciousness, change in the outer form, change in the outer circumstances. The change is happening because evolution has to go on. This yoga of Prakriti is a very slow process. Very, very slow process. One doesn't know how long it will take. But a system has been discovered by following certain path, that this whole process of evolution can be accelerated. What would take 100 years can be achieved in 10 years or 1 year or even 1 day, depending upon the intensity in the acceleration in the process. This is where one finds the greatest contribution of the seers and sages of the past and of all the spiritual gurus. How do we accelerate this process of evolution, growth, the change? And this is a very methodized process that was discovered, that was followed, that was lived, that was realized. Because yes, by following this path, one can achieve things or achieve perfection, or can grow conscious of the perfect nature of the soul, or can have the Atmajnana or the Brahmajnana, or can enter into Brahma Vidya, the Jagat Jnana, Atmajnana and Deva Jnana, Brahma Jnana, by following this methodized process. And that methodized process was called the yoga. The very root sound, yoga, use, is deeply connected with connection, union, uniting, combining, bringing together, meeting, and also the sense of giving. Yajna and yoga, so they belong to the same family of ya family, where the main sense is to give. Now as yajna has the sense of giving, like you give, and by giving you grow, the same way yoga also has the sense of giving. Unless and until that openness, that sense of surrendering, that sense of giving oneself is not intense and pure, so whatever process one may follow to have the yoga, one will fail or it will take more time. So yoga was not considered something which is separate from life, or the various activities of life. The challenge, like as we find in the tantric system of yoga, in the yoga of the Gita, in the yoga of the Upanishads, in the yoga of the Vedas, and again a great synthesis which was brought by Sri Aurobindo. So whatever we may be in our present stage, whatever we may be doing in our life, every aspect of life can be translated or transformed or changed to or used for doing yoga. So that is why the Gita, when we come to the Gita system of yoga, so it doesn't distinguish between this karma or that karma. A simple thing, take it as an example, like how all life, every aspect of life is an opportunity to grow in yoga. It all depends upon our aspiration, our purity, the purpose in aspiration, our sincerity, our regularity, how do we treat it? So the Gita says, Kritsnam karma, not this karma or that karma. Like sometimes, all high-level officers holding a position in some company or some government officers, enjoying the whole status, respect, money, prestige, everything. So after their retirement, they would come to the mother to settle in the ashram. So ashram means you have to do something. That's why the name is ashrama. A means total, shrama, one has to exhaust oneself completely. Without exertion, no ashrama. The shrama has to be more and total. If ashram is not a place to rest, to enjoy a retirement life. That's what is happening in many ashrams. So many people after retirement, they join some ashram. So will have enough rest. But ashram is the place where no rest. It's all action. One has to exert oneself as much. Total. Ashrama. A means total. Shrama. Shram means shram karna hai. One has to exert oneself. So mother would give that go and wash the utensils in the dining. The person may not have done or thought of this in his entire life because there were all people to look after. And it becomes a shock. Oh, I have to do the utensil cleaning in the ashram. If the person doesn't follow it and take it in the other sense, he missed an opportunity to do yoga. Because he made a distinction between this work and that work. That is not yoga. The yogic attitude is not to distinguish. Kritsnam karma. Any work. There's no, in the language of the Gita, in the language of yoga, this is a lowly work, this is a high work, and this is a prestigious work, this is a work of this. And we get so many examples. We get... Huh? Karma?
Many interpretations of this one, karma, in the Gita. They say that karma as defined in the Vedas, they say.
What is the karma defined in the Vedas? No, it's okay. I accept it. Karma as defined in the Vedas. But what is the karma defined in the Vedas? So they take it, this is a ritualistic mentality. This is karma defined in the Vedas as that you have to do all your rituals, fire sacrifice, this, that. That is what is karma. That is what is the divine karma, and rest karma is. That is absolutely wrong interpretation. That's not karma. Karma means Kritsnam karma, any karma. That is why Kritsnam karma, it's there in the chapter 4 or 5. I'll get you the exact detail.
When you were saying you're missing an opportunity to do yoga, or there is an opportunity to do yoga in every aspect.
Yoga in the sense you have missed an opportunity to come in contact with your soul. This acceptance is a great thing in yoga. Like I accept. In all situations, this one who is very rigid, obstinate, is not ready to accept whatever comes on the way. So then one is rejecting leading a yogic life. It's not open to grow.
That's what you had said earlier about openness.
So you were saying he's missing an opportunity to come in connect with his own self. How? So if you could explain it with an example in the work, and how through that work simple one, basically, we have
Yeah.
done a simple one. How people come in connection with themselves. I'm getting it, but if you could elaborate.
Yeah, it is not the work which will get you in touch with the thing, but the attitude with which you perform the action. The consciousness from which you perform the action. The consciousness and attitude with which you accept the action. When you reject, you are not in your true state of consciousness. So any work can be a karma yoga or a divine work when it is performed with the right attitude, with the right consciousness.
Karma and work. I think karma is not properly defined with the word work. It should be activity or action.
Any action, yeah, it can be mental also, it can be emotional also. Yes. But it's always connected with your mental, vital, all kinds of movements are connected with the physical work also. Okay. So this yoga, the Vedic tantric system of yoga was not away from life, but it treated every aspect of life, every opportunity, every circumstance in life as an opportunity to do yoga or convert it into the yogic action, the yogic attitude. It laid stress more on the attitude and the consciousness from which it is performed. So it treated all life as yoga. Every aspect of life is yoga. Not that this person goes to the Himalaya and sits in meditation, is doing yoga, and the other person is just doing his work or pulling the rickshaw or driving the auto rickshaw is not doing yoga. This distinction was, even now also many people carry this sense of yoga. So when in the Upanishad you find these stories, the kings were sent to a cart driver that you want to have the Brahman knowledge. Don't come here, go there. Raikwa, who is driving a cart, he has a better knowledge than you about the Brahman. Similarly, the butchers, one who kills the animals for his survival, is a self-realized person. But his action is a very ghinona, very wrong action from the ordinary point of view. But he is a realized person. A king is sent to him that learn the knowledge of Brahman from him. You find these kind of stories and elements plentifully in the Upanishads, in our tradition. This is how the yoga was understood. Every aspect of life was taken care of. It was taken care of and cast into the framework of yoga, so then they could transform that aspect of life. We get transformation of the nature, transformation of all that we are, the present state of consciousness, into a higher consciousness was the purpose of yoga. If I am doing yoga for a long time, but my nature is not transformed, because there are plenty of examples. The Sri Aurobindo says that there are many people who have realized the Brahman, but the nature remains where it is. He makes another remarkable statement that the humanity has evolved on one front. Like, look at the field of science and technology, how the humanity has evolved. But essentially, the humanity is still living in its primitive state. This is why the yoga is needed. Essentially, the humanity is still living in its primitive state, carrying the same brutal attitude, living in the same animal consciousness, feeding the animals, sitting, living in his being. So a certain perfection has been realized at one front, but the essential nature is not changed. So it means the real evolution has not taken place. So this is where one finds it difficult, and the yoga can bring a solution to this difficulty of transforming oneself from within. That was the purpose of yoga. The first point that I want to make it clear here, that no aspect of life was discarded, disrespected, or not taken care of in the system of yoga. Every aspect of life was taken care of, so then they could transform that aspect from its lower level to the higher level. One has to make oneself free from one's own limitations and grow higher and higher to realize one's own unlimited, infinite potentiality. Because limitations, in the ordinary level, we live in the limited consciousness. Everything is limited. And that limitation, that narrowness, is the root cause of all our human problems, human miseries, human sufferings. And the solution to all our problems lies in going beyond that limitation and realizing the unlimited power, unlimited consciousness, the unlimited infinite potentiality of ourselves. So to the degree one has grown in consciousness, so one realizes and uses that much of power in life. So doing yoga means becoming free from these limitations, growing more and more conscious of one's own limitations and working on oneself how to get rid of the limitations. Growing vaster and vaster and vaster. So the ultimate goal, therefore, in the Vedic system of yoga, Satyam Ritam Bruhat. Satyam Ritam Bruhat. Ritam. Brihat. Satyam is the static truth, the truth that exists. Like I exist. This is Satyam. And translating that Satyam into dynamism, execution of that is Ritam, is the right. R-I-T-A-M, Ritam. And Bruhat is the vastness. Ritam is the dynamic truth, the truth in execution. The right. Yes, perform, but the right. The right action, the right attitude, the right arrangement is Ritam. So wherever right is there, that is Ritam. Wherever rhythm is there, that is Ritam. Wherever harmony is there, that is Ritam. Wherever beauty is there, that is Ritam. Okay. Yes. Action or dynamism. Making the potential dynamic. Say for example, like I exist, or something exists. This is the truth, but the truth of being is Satyam, that it exists. One cannot deny it. This exists. The world exists. The God exists. This is Satyam. And Ritam is what I do to realize the Satyam. The right action, the right attitude, the right arrangement, anything right, the right living. And Brihat is the vastness towards which we all must grow. Yes? Brihat. Brihat is the status, is the thing which has been realized by people.
So I start by accepting who I am and I try to grow out of my limitation.
I become conscious of my state, who am I, and then I grow towards by following a certain discipline which is right. And then where I have to reach is the vastness of my consciousness. This is Brihat. So this is what was meant by yoga. Now it is not limited to yogasanas. It is not limited to this form of yoga, that form of yoga. Can be any form of yoga. It can be any form of yoga. So what connects me with my soul is yoga. It's not merely meditation, is yoga. So that's why when we come to the Gita, we find there are so many ways which have been shown. Do this, do this, do this, do this. And this is a part of the yoga. Right consciousness, from the higher consciousness. The right can come only in a higher consciousness, not in a divided or ordinary limited consciousness. There is one aspect of the mind. See, the engagement of the mind in all its activities. Vritti. Nirodha means like to constrain it, to have control over it. For example, like if we become conscious, we know the nature of the mind. So there what is Nirodha means to have control over the fickleness, all the activities of the mind. To make the mind free from all its impurities. Okay. So there are three important doshas of the mind. The first dosha of mind is vikshiptata. Vikshipta. That it is dispersed. Vikshipta. It is not concentrated. It is not focused. It is vikshipta. Now here, or some other time somewhere else, within a fraction of a moment it can go and make a world tour and then come back. That is vikshiptata. Engaging itself in 1,000 different things simultaneously. This is vikshiptata. The second dosha of mind is avarana. Avarana means a veil. 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 Like cover. Something is placed before it. Like you place a like curtain before the mirror. The mirror is of no use. Don't see. So the same way there is an avaranam by default in the mind. So then the mind doesn't see the truth clearly. Doesn't know what is true clearly. Okay. Then by default mind also has a dosha of mala, impurities. It is prone to all kinds of impure, negative, low kinds of thoughts or getting engaged with those things. Mala. By default it's in an impure state at the ordinary level. But essentially, mind is divine, Daivam or Divyam. So it has to be made free from its mala, avarana and vikshiptata, its doshas. That is what is the process by which we make the mind silent. That is what chitta vritti nirodha. So no, and see, the chitta vritti nirodha, you cannot say that mind has to be in absolutely in a quiet state with no thoughts and nothing. Then mind becomes completely inert and it doesn't do anything. But to have chitta vritti nirodha is to have that kind of mind where the right things come. Or one has the control what to allow and what not to allow, how to execute it. It is a mind of that. No, ultimately that will not be controlled by the mind. Again, if we go deep, that stage comes when mind is put in touch with the Atman or the heart. So ultimately it has to be regulated by the heart. At present it is the mind which is regulating rest of the things. Not heart. Mind is regulating everything, all our emotions, physical actions and everything. But mind has to be regulated by the self, by the inmost being. Yes. So it has to be constantly brought in and then put in touch with this. So that is why the Gita says, Mano hridi niruddhya cha. Mano hridi niruddhya cha. Shutting the mind in the heart. Or Atma sanstham manah kritva. In the heart. Atma sanstham manah kritva. Making the mind fixed in the self. So it has to be soul regulated. So that's why when the mother spoke of the education, she said the education in its true sense is a soul guided education. Not guided by the mental, vital, physical. Free from the compulsion and limitations of the mental, vital, physical, and solely guided by the soul. That is what is a free progress system of education or integral system of education, where everything is regulated by the soul, by the psychic. So, in Chitta Vritti Nirodha also, ultimately, the mind has to be regulated by the self. Manah kritva or Mano hridi niruddhya cha. So here, as I wanted to discuss with you, the central purpose of yoga, we have discussed about it, that life is the field of yoga. Every aspect of life. Nothing is excluded, ignored, neglected. But every aspect of life is taken with that attitude to transform, raised it to a different level of consciousness. The transformation of our superficial and narrow and fragmentary human way of thinking, seeing, feeling, being into deep, wide and spiritual consciousness and an integrated inner and outer existence, and of our ordinary human living into the divine way of life must be the central purpose of yoga. The ordinary will be changed to the divine way. Our individual will has to be regulated by the divine will. Our ordinary action will be translated into divine action. Our limited action will be translated into the unlimited action. Unlimited power. Not living in the divided consciousness, but to live in the unity of consciousness. To become free from all dualities, all binaries, transcending all dualities, transcending all binaries. And then we realize the real potentialities, the real reality of ourselves, and this mere realization of that is not the end of the yoga. Now the thing is, in doing yoga, we just keep doing without being really clear about the purpose why I am doing the yoga. How many times you see, like, we go for the yogasana or this or that. What is the purpose of doing that? Most people do yogasanas because I can become free from the rogue, and free from this, that. But the purpose is bringing the physical in connection with the divine. So then the physical has the touch of the divine. The physical has the touch of the divine. And when the physical has the touch of the divine, what is visible in that transformed physical? All these things are there. But the divine manifests in the physical in the form of beauty and rhythm and harmony. So a person who has achieved that by following physical exercises or yogasanas or whatever, going to gym, when he sits, all his physical movements, one can find that coordination, that symmetry, that proportion, that harmony, that beauty, that rhythm. And that is what is divine element. Because divine manifests in this form. Not that in his body you will see marks and signs of Vishnu, Brahma and all these things. It manifests in the form of beauty, rhythm, coordination, proportion. When a person is doing dance or dancer, what is the goal of dancing? The music, the poetry, the art. Is it to become an ustad, musician or top level dancer? So lots of foreign trips, name, fame. No. It is to grow more and more conscious of, through the different patterns of the dance, through the different patterns of the music. It's a discipline. By following that discipline, one becomes a realized yogi. So a dancer must become a perfect yogi, a musician, a perfect yogi, a teacher, a perfect yogi. That's what Sri Aurobindo wanted, that all my teachers should become yogi. Then the real integral education can happen. Everyone is expected in life to become yogi. That's what the Gita says, Tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. Arjuna, therefore, you must become a yogi. Only then the right action can happen. Tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. Yogastha kuru karmani. Perform all your action by being in yoga. By being in yoga means by being in touch with your inner self or the higher self. Bringing transformation and change, and that transformation and change can come only when, so that is why the first step towards, or the first step in yoga or education, as it is outlined by Sri Aurobindo and the mother, is to become conscious of yourself. The first step is to become conscious of ourselves. One who is not conscious, for him there is no point. I mean, he goes the way he is. To become conscious of oneself and to work towards bringing the transformation. And a journey from the ordinary to the higher. So what is the most important step? So when the soul, this is what I discussed before. When the soul, the spirit, it descends into the body or becomes the matter, it has a purpose. Nothing happens without purpose. There's nothing nishprayojana or nishkarana. Behind everything there is a purpose. If the soul, the spirit has manifested and has become matter, so there is a purpose. And this purpose, this mission of the spirit, becomes each individual's dharma. This purpose becomes each individual's dharma. So, dharma is my unique mission. The intention of my individual spirit, my soul's purpose for choosing my body. That is my dharma. And it can differ from another person. It differs from person to person. So that is why it is given as the name Swadharma. When it becomes Swadharma, one's own dharma. And discovering our dharma is the most important step in our life. Life means so this is where the yoga education they come into play a role. So the most important step is discovering our dharma, and that dharma is unique mission of my spirit or the individual spirit, the purpose for which the spirit has taken birth in my body. Passages. What are the ways to get into that dharma? So often this question comes, how do I become conscious of my swabhav, my swadharma? The steps are exploration. The first step is exploration. The process of going within and asking what our purpose is. The first step. This is where one becomes conscious of oneself and starts asking this question and going deep within, introspection, atma-nirikshana, antarmukhikarana, interiorization. Like one turns, by nature, by default, all our senses or our self, what we call the apparent self, is projected out. Its doors are open outward. So we always tend to, see out, hear something outside. So that's why the scriptures say, Kvantar mukhatvam apahaya sukhasya varta. Kvantar mukhatvam apahaya sukhasya varta. How can you think of happiness? Happiness in the sense, the real sense of happiness. The joy of the soul. Kvantar mukhatvam apahaya. How can you think of happiness without turning yourself within? Without going deep within. So this turning within, living within, one can realize what is happiness. So this antarmukhikarana is the first stage, which is termed here as exploration. Going deep within to find out who am I. Start asking this query, this inquiry has to be there. Who am I? Why am I born here? What is my purpose in life? What is life? What is this world? One who has taken this first step, all sorts of questions keep coming to oneself. When we were doing the project on the Upanishads, which is now available on the apps and internet, I made a compilation of all the different questions which were asked by the Upanishadic seekers or seers. Around 350 questions we have compiled. Yes. 350 questions from various Upanishads. Yeah, it's available on the apps, Upanishads apps that we have created. And look at the nature of the questions. And it is through the questions one can, if the questions are not arising in you, here is another helpful material which can help you in the formation of questions. Because often we don't know how to form a question. What questions to be asked. We don't know. That's why we don't ask questions. We don't know how to form prayers. That's why when a beautiful question was asked to the mother, there's a book by the mother, it's called Prayers and Meditations. And if you look at each prayer, she makes a prayer. Then someone asked the mother once, Mother, you are the divine mother. Then whom do you pray? What is the need for you to have prayers? She says, very beautiful, he said the whole humanity doesn't know how to make a prayer. And I am forming these prayers for the humanity to pray. So on behalf of us, she has helped us through that, how to formulate a prayer. How to formulate a question. Often questions do not come to us. What question should I ask? And when we look at the type of questions that the Upanishadic seers and sages of that time, the seekers, have asked, and they engaged themselves throughout seeking answer to these questions. And they realized, and what they realized is available to us in the form of Upanishads. So it's up to us to go through these scriptures and understand those realizations, which will be helpful for our own preparation, our own realization. So this is why this kind of workshops or this kind of discussions is necessary. What is there in these texts and how we can take help from those texts to build our own life, to bring changes in our own life. So the first step is exploration, the process of going within and asking what our purpose is. The second step is discovery, connecting with our inner truth and realizing the purpose. Once the purpose we have found, then we need to connect it with ourselves. And realizing that purpose within. And most people stop at this point. I have realized. I have understood. What next? So the end, like one place, Sri Aurobindo writes in his essays on the Gita when he speaks about the Karma Yoga. He says the real Karma Yoga is, it is the birth of the soul into a higher consciousness. It is the birth of the soul into a higher consciousness. So it gives an understanding that we stop here, that it's just raising ourselves from the ordinary to the higher. That's not, the real Karma Yoga has not yet begun. Then Sri Aurobindo says, when every action of ours becomes an expression of that birth of the soul into the higher consciousness, that is the real Karma Yoga. So every action of ours is the expression of that my soul has taken birth into a higher consciousness. It is the translation or regulated by that higher action, regulated by the higher consciousness. That is not action, but the expression of that new birth of the soul into a higher consciousness. So here, realizing the purpose, the last step comes is the fulfillment. The fulfillment is implementing that purpose in our day-to-day life. Purpose means that realized, what is realized into our day-to-day life. Unless and until it is translated into our day-to-day action, then mere understanding or realization of the purpose is not going to be of much help. in our evolution, in our true progress. So translating that or implementing that purpose into our day-to-day action. Yes. Yeah, that is true. It can change. Yeah, I'll give you one example which I have shared many times individually and collectively in meetings. Because this question comes up like, what is my swabhav? But once you have got it, that your swabhav is like this, you may be engaged in different actions, doing different things, but you are still bound in the sense that you are still deeply connected with that. Every action is performed by being connected with the deeper self. It has the touch of the soul. The action has the touch of the soul because it emerges straight from the soul. And we were discussing about the Swabhav and Swadharma. So this is where I have 2 times shared this example today in the morning. Once with Sanjay and once with Murtiji. And many times I have shared it in many platforms. It takes time to explore and find out what Swabhav is. Okay. And then once we find it out, then we have to regulate all our actions as per that Swabhav. Then the real progress happens of the soul. So it leads us towards the full realization of ourself. Datman. Yeah. How do we know? This is where I bring this example. One has to keep exploring. I tell you the story until you find it. And when you find it, you will know it because there will be enormous joy in that. This joy, the experience of the joy in that will confirm you that this is what is. Yes, strange. Unbelievable, yeah.
Joy, indication of the joy, to be singularly something on flow or zone. The flow or the zone you experience of the things goes into the, now I can connect, goes into the indicators that you are getting, moving into your soul. Lower zone, all of achievers of the world have to enter into the flow of the zone of their Swabhav or Dharma. Then only they will excel.
Okay.
If you are not into Swabhav, you can do good, but you cannot excel.
So now I know one person. He is a yogi. Before he became a yoga teacher. So he was a fine musician. A top level musician in piano. He thought this is what is my life, my Swabhav. He did it, everything perfect, nicely, but then he felt unhappy. He was not feeling happy. As he grew conscious of himself, he found that no, even this piano is not giving him that joy. Then he became more quiet, internal, and then found that, whoa, I have beautiful language, I'm a poet. He started writing poetry, started writing articles, beautiful. His writings are straight from the heart. He drew some joy, but not the joy he was looking for. And then one day he discovered that, oh, I become a teacher. And when he came to this point that there is a teacher sitting in me, the joy was unbound. And he continues his life by being a teacher. And the way he teaches is amazing. He found that Swabhav in him. And once you find, teaching can be the most important thing. But then, the one who has discovered the Swabhav and living according to the Swabhav, every karma of him is a different. When the person cooks, or talks to people, or sits, or have a dialogue with someone, anything he does, he can be engaged in various actions. He can do the same, he can go back and do the same music. But it's a different experience. He can again write poetry. It doesn't mean that he's not doing the music, he is not doing the poetry. He's doing everything again by being a teacher. But he has discovered the core competence of him, the core value of him, the Swabhav. One more story.
That core competence can he realize after a few years that maybe now I will have a different joy in the music which I have had, which earlier did not have, because his Swabhav or his yogic realization may have moved to such an extent that he says, no, not saturation. Maybe earlier when he was not enjoying the music, he was not a realized soul, or he did not get that kind of...
Yeah, he became, like conscious. Yes.
Transformation happened and he re-enters the field which he was not...
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I say. No? Like he can, do the music again, he can do the poetry.
And realize extreme joy and even teaching.
But no, not give up. He won't give up the teaching because that is what is Swabhav. He can do other things by being in that state of his own, in his own.
Change, because can it happen after a few years? There could be a person who finds a different set of goals after every few years.
No, for him what happens, now this thing, that thing doesn't matter. He can do anything. But from a different state of consciousness.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
Can happen.
Yeah. So for example, like you take Hazrat Inayat Khan. He was a top level musician, a Sufi master. And when he left Baroda and settled in UK, he left music. He left music. He was engaged in writing poetry and his spiritual stuff and discoursing. So many things he did. He left music. When he was asked, why did you leave music? He said, I left music because I became music. I became music. Now, you can see the translation of that musicality or the music in every action of what he is doing. That is where, like to become. Like one becomes. It's not realizing certain things, but becoming something is the ultimate. He became the song. He walks. No, that is what, na? When he becomes music, he walks, it is music. He sits, it's music. He speaks, it's music. He writes, it's music.
So we didn't see any separation, like W.B. Yeats said, you don't try to separate the linnet from the leaf. The bird and the leaf.
Because he lives in the unity. He lives in the unity. He doesn't live in the divided consciousness. For him, division doesn't exist. It's unity. That's yoga.
Again, if you could break be talking this particular concept, because I kept hearing about this for a moment. I was just resonating it with, because you said unity divides into fragments.
Yeah, it is what we are talking, like if you take in the language of Sri Aurobindo, it is the integral Advaitism. So this is yoga. So we have passages to Dharma, exploration, discovery, fulfillment, the right aims. We can go on discussing again all these things afterwards. So this is what we mean by yoga, and this is how we should take and accept when we say that we are practicing yoga, that we are turning our entire life to a different level of consciousness. The whole journey from ordinary level to the higher level. And performing all our actions at each level from that higher level of consciousness. And this happens when we keep following the discipline, keep always ourselves, putting in touch with ourselves, turning within by being connected with our deeper self. That is yogastha. Doing all our actions by being in yoga, in union with ourselves. Okay, so this is a bit understanding of the yoga, which was one of the greatest contribution of our seers and sages in building this culture, this civilization, this nation. And this already a great awareness which has taken place in the field of yoga. But the depth is still to be recovered and translated into practical terms. But the awareness has increased. What we didn't hear 20 years before, now the situation has changed. More and more people opening to the yoga. Maybe it's at one level, there are levels and levels and levels. Distortion will be there. So the churning is going on till we reach certain stage of perfection. But the awareness has taken place. And the same awareness has to spread with regard to the language, with regard to Sanskrit, which is the next step. And it is through yoga, this language is again going to get back its own place in the world. So we will discuss about the language in the next session. Okay. So we take a break.
If the last slide on, just wanted to read.
Last slide.
Last slide of this yogic.
This one?
The one which came towards the end.
This one?
Right, yes.
Right aims. Oh. This is what the mother says, that an aimless life is always a miserable life. Miserable life means a life without happiness. Not miserable in the sense of miserable ordinary. A life without happiness. Okay. Every one of you should have an aim. But do not forget that on the quality of your aim will depend the quality of your life. Your aim should be high and wide, generous and disinterested. This will make your life precious to yourself and others. Yeah. Disinterested means like anasakta. But whatever your ideal, it cannot be perfectly realized unless you have realized the perfection in yourself. That is the sole purpose of the yoga, to realize the ever perfect nature of the soul.
It encompasses the entire description of last 1 hour.
So, in that expression, Siddha Purush means one who has realized or one who has fulfilled?
One who has realized the perfection. What is the? That's where we have outlined the. 1 minute. The fourfold discipline of developing and manifesting these qualities, the psychic awakening, true and so the psychic awakening. So by psychic, it is a very unique terminology which Sri Aurobindo has used for the soul in evolution. Psychic. Not psychic in the sense usually people understand in the modern psychology, Western European psychology. So psychic is the soul in evolution, the Antaratman. So where lies the true and pure love. Then the mental culture. Mind also has to be educated. where the infallible knowledge, the right knowledge will manifest in the mind, and educating the vital, where one has the invincible power. The vital is the seat of power. It gives us the energy to do everything. But it has two levels, one is a lower level and one is a higher level. The lower vital, it always pulls us down and makes us go into the low level of consciousness. So we need to have mastery over the lower vital and entry into the higher vital, which is the source of all our energy, all our creativity. So invincible power is the vital education. Then the physical discipline has to bring perfect beauty and harmony in every aspect of our physical being. So when we speak of integral yoga and integral education in the Light of Sri Aurobindo, these are the four levels, and beyond this is the spiritual education, or the spiritual which is in connection with the universal. And one can get in touch with the psychic either through the physical or through the vital or through the mental or all three simultaneously. So there is no hard and fast rule that one has to go step by step. If you want to start with the two books which I could, preliminary. One is the basis of yoga, which is simple writings of Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo and the Mother on education. Yes. So there you will find the whole outline of how do we do the mental education and physical and vital and so. So understanding Sri Aurobindo becomes easy through the Mother.